Alright, welcome to Art with Ian. This is episode 9 in the real-time painting series. So, real quickly before we jump in, I just want to say a couple things that I did here. I actually merged Link down onto his own layer because I didn't know it was kind of getting, it was like 4 layers. I had dappled light and shadow and all that stuff, and I just wanted it all down on one layer, so we've done that. And Master Sword is still grouped because I'm still kind of working on that, like not sure if I want to merge it quite yet. First thing I want to do today, we're going to be working on his hand over here and probably this one too. But first thing I want to do today is I've sized this arm down, I think twice, once from the sketch and once in the actual painting. And when I look at it, it still feels too big to me. So I'm gonna, I think maybe make it a little more narrow. And just thinking about the relationship of his hand to his head and, you know, arm and everything. So I'm gonna try that out and see how that feels. I think that, hopefully that's better. Yeah, we're gonna go with that. Okay, next thing I want to do is I'm gonna create a layer underneath his body, and I'm going to paint his shield, which I have yet to do. Interestingly, I was thinking about it, and I was looking at references and everything, and I remembered looking at the references that Link is actually left-handed in Ocarina of Time. I've been playing Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom so much for the last few years that I just like felt like he was right-handed because he's been right-handed for years now, but he was actually left-handed in Ocarina of Time. So I have the sword in his wrong hand, technically, but I'm not going to change. I'm not, you know, just it is what it is. But yeah, that's just an interesting tidbit. I have a reference up above of the back side of the Hylian Shield. So I'm going to use that to kind of help me out. I'm going to go just a tiny bit of color in here. And looks like the shield has got kind of a metal frame, and there's some wood inside that, and then it's got metal. I'm thinking maybe it would show up a little bit here. You just kind of have to imagine kind of how... Actually, you know what we could do? This would be kind of a cool little way to demo the symmetry tool on... Actually, you know what I'm going to do here? I'm just going to create a layer at the very top. I'm going to set it to light gray. And maybe a little darker than that. That's a little bit too light. Okay, create a layer on top. I'm just creating this layer to get everything out of my vision so I don't have to look at it. And I'm going to turn on vertical symmetry and pick a color here, like a very, very mostly gray with a little bit of blue in. And I'm just going to look at the shield, the shape of the shield in my reference. And because this is a symmetrical object, I can use the symmetry tool. That's too long. It's actually fairly narrow. Not fairly narrow, I mean fairly stout. Oop. This line right here is pretty, kind of has a bit of a belly to it right there. Now, if you guys have never used the symmetry tool in Photoshop, it is really powerful, and you can do all kinds of cool things. You can do radial symmetry, you can do quad symmetry, you can do hexagonal. It's a very cool tool. Maybe in other demos somewhere along the way that I do, we'll see other applications for it. This is the most basic application, just base symmetry. Okay, let's see. So it's got wood inside, and looks like it's a fairly brownish, kind of standard wood color. We're not going to see a ton of this, and I am going to have to paint the perspective onto it, because we're actually going to see part of the side of it, and right now I'm not painting part of the side of it. I'm only painting a flat 2D version of it. Okay, and quickly add some texture to this. Using MA brush number 3-11 from that brush set that I have talked about several times in this. Creating a new layer so that I can just erase away quickly. Just putting some wood grain in. And a little shadow from where the metal builds up over the wood. All right, and then you can merge that down and paint in the crossbar, which is right around here somewhere. And then there's another one. We're not going to see a lot of this stuff, so I need to be careful I don't get carried away, but just doing this to kind of actually demo the symmetry tool, which I'm assuming probably a lot of you guys have used by now, but just in case you haven't, it is very cool. I don't know if you're using other digital software like Krita or Clip Studio or whatever, Procreate. I think Procreate definitely has a symmetry option. The other ones I'm not positive about. I'm not going to paint the handle or the strap, I don't think, because I just don't think they'll show. My reference isn't showing anything for this, but I think it'd be kind of probably worthwhile to show some like rivets or something on this, or some kind of construction, you know, just something subtle, you know, that just kind of gives a feeling of like it being constructed. Might be going too many here. Let's just do that. Alrighty. Shadow there. Some shadow there. Shadow. Alright, I'm gonna have to call this good enough because it's really kind of pointless to keep going. Okay, turning symmetry off. I'm going to delete this layer. And now I'm going to take this, drag it down below link, and turn it. To the angle that I want. And we could distort it some. To kind of start to show it's going away at the back. We might see a little bit of it back on the other side of his body. We'll leave that for now. Okay, and now we need to paint the perspective into it. So let's do that. We know we have light. Let's see here. Wonder what the thickness is on it, kind of like up into the point here. I think it's probably getting, looks like it's getting kind of thin here. And then thicker out here. That's what I'm going to go for. We'll see how that works out. Okay, so this is turning away from the light right here. So instead of having it go remain bright, I'm going to just try going darker and we'll see how that feels. These we can kind of play with the position of these a little bit. Okay, not really sure that I want to show as much of the other side of the shield as showing right now. I'm just going to use my eraser and ditch a fair amount of it. Then create a layer over the top, merge that down, set it to multiply, and probably continue on with our shadow color we've been using, which is the environment kind of greenish color. see how that works. Going pretty dark for this. Push that nice into shadow. Get this into shadow here. And then going much lighter. Hit a couple bits of dappled light onto it. And hopefully that just about pushes that into the scene now. I'm not sure about how much is showing at the top above his body, but we'll see how it gets. We'll see for now. We'll leave it for now. Okay, well, I've got this shadow color. I'm going to go a little darker again. I'm also going to create a layer over the top of Link and clip that down. Set it to multiply. Let's just kind of think about this back side of his body over here that's turning away from the light, and see about maybe pushing it into shadow. All this stuff back here. Behind the Master Sword. I almost wonder about just going like fully deep like this behind the Master Sword there, but I think that might be too much. But definitely back here, this other side of his knee. Here. All right, let's see here. How are we getting on? Starting to feel like it's bringing a little bit more richness to the overall. There. Okay, let's do an on-off and just kind of see what that did. And zoom out a little bit. Yeah, it definitely feels like it pushed some things back or out of the focus. It also created a little space now for us to create a layer over the top. This one's not going to be clipped. And go in and actually do some environmental ambient rim light. Which I got to be careful how bold I go with this. Let's see, what brush do I want to use? I think I'm going to use the MA brush number 1-2 that I've been using a lot. This might be too bright. Let's go darker. Still probably too bright. Darker and a little greener. And what we're doing here is we're just in the deepest shadows. We're just allowing the ambient light from around the scene, from, you know, skylight and stuff, to play in to the shot. And the reason I didn't clip this layer is because I want it to be able to change the silhouette if I want it to. So like if I want to add a fold into this boot flap, I can do that. If I want to add a fold into anything along here or whatever, I can do that. And the way that I typically work when it comes to this kind of thing, and really in general most things, is I probably go maybe a little heavy with the intention of kind of erasing things into the shot, or erasing them into, you know, into the piece so that they feel like they belong. Definitely want some in here. And in here. Now this doesn't really work too well if you don't go deep enough with your shadows. I also still need to render the gold. I remember a while ago I said I was looking forward to rendering the gold, and then I never actually got around to it because I've just been caught up doing stuff, but we will get there. I'm trying to remember my fold shapes from before. I kind of lost some of that in with the dappled light and whatnot. So just kind of trying to, and that's a lot of what this is about, is just reestablishing some of your forms and things in the deeper shadows, and doing it in a way that creates a little bit more nuance than just the same, having the same local kind of color feeling. Can go a little brighter in areas where it feels like it needs it, or would get it, like along here. Losing an edge there. It's okay to lose edges, as long as you know, as long as you're doing it on purpose. Let's hit the top of this belt buckle with a fair amount and then dull it way down. It's not a belt buckle, it's a strap. But yeah, as per the usual, my brain doesn't really work on all cylinders when I'm painting and talking. I say weird things. Okay, And now I'm just going to treat this like a everything layer, right? It's like I started using it as rim light, but then if I see other things I want to do, I'm just going to do them. This is kind of a paint, you know, it's whatever it needs, it's a whatever it needs to be layer. You know, adding depth, where it's kind of like, think of it as almost like last looks, like it can do whatever we want it to do. Depth, texture, whatever you see that you want to accomplish, just get it done. I never did resolve the whatever I was going to do with this here, the way that this hooks up. Maybe we'll do something with that right now. Let's say that it has like a metal hook. Oh, somehow I changed my tool. I'm not sure how. Tapped a button. I'm going to change to my chalky render brush to do this, and I'm going to go much darker because we're in shadow here. Let's say that there's like a metal hook. It goes around there. And then this strap goes onto the hook. And that's how it's connected. That allows for movement. Just leather, like stitched to leather, doesn't make much sense. Okay, and while we're in here, let's go ahead and just render the gold. Now we need to think, there's a lot of green here, like a lot of green. So I'm gonna go greener and much, much darker and pretty rich. And I'm gonna zoom in quite a bit. And we're gonna think about this being these are cylinders. So we're gonna give them a core shadow and then any other shadow that they need. I'm gonna need to go darker at some point here, but I'm just starting here. Okay, let's think about the shape of this. Right here is a major turn in the form. So I'm just gonna assume like right here, I can create a nice shape. And then let's rotate the canvas, because I just prefer top to bottom strokes over left right or right left. Just for me personally, it's more comfortable. You know, it's funny, I was gonna get to that hand and here we are rendering a belt buckle. But hopefully we'll get to that hand in this. I'm kind of hoping that this episode is going to be a bit of a all over the place, because that's really where I need to be with this painting at this point, is just moving all around it, not getting caught up too terribly much in any particular zone. Okay, back to this shadow color. Okay, the form wraps around here. We could technically say there's light here, even though there's dappled light, or I mean dappled shadow. If we push just a little bit of light there, it helps us to show that shape. Okay. And then this part of the gold is right above this brown, which means it's going to have reflected light. So let's just work a little bit of that brown into here. That helps it to feel reflective. If you can feel the color from nearby objects impacting, then you start to get your brain starts to go, that's reflective. It tells you that it's reflective. Similarly, doing the same thing here. Working that little bit of green in to the bottom of this. Okay, we're gonna go darker and richer, which means more saturation. deeper with some of these, or some of this stuff here. Okay, rotate again. I'm gonna get a nice bit of core shadow right along here, and then reinforce that outside of the rim light with green reflection from the tunic. Gonna run a line of light along there. And along here. Along here. Okay, let's get something going on for the buckle, or I mean whatever this bit is, the latch or the whatever it is. I can't remember the name of this part of the buckle right now, but there it is. While we're in here, we can re-establish a little bit of something with the belt itself, the actual, you know, the form of the belt. We can show that this is more wrapped around this. Start to refine shapes, or continue to refine shapes, really is what we're doing. Refine, refine, refine. That's how this process works. Just get a nice shadow right there to show that that's hanging off, you know, that that's actually sticking off of the body of the pack. Let's put some thickness on this, like so. I want to show a form term right here. Now I know we're probably defying some of our dappled light, but I don't care, because I want the viewer to still see things and recognize their shapes and forms and things, right? So that's okay. All right, zoom back in a little bit. Okay, we need to establish one bit of this that just really gets hit hard by the light. Maybe a little bit right here. I'm gonna add some saturation. Create a layer. Just do something like that. Take an eraser, soften that down, and remove it from the center. And there we got a little bit of bloom happening. Then I'll just merge that down. Okay, let's zoom out. So we've got that one going pretty good. Let's just go up to the other one now and go, you know, do similar treatment. our core shadows have changed direction on this a little bit now because of this being a different direction, or facing a different direction slightly. So we're following the light, not the thing itself. Okay. Bring a little bit of light into here, around there. Okay, let's go get our light color. And I am going to rotate. Let's go pick up some green. Put along this edge. Let's 2 green. There we go, maybe right in there. Yep. Let's rotate again. And I'm going to go really dark green. And just put a little bit of something here, like, just want this to pop right there. This side as well. Under this color. Definitely under this color. Along here. Let's refine this a little bit. Some scratches and scrapes and things on this shield. Okay, let's put this in the shadow over here. And then back to our rim light. And finally, we've made it to the hand. What time do we have? 40 minutes. All right. I'm going to go to my main link layer and just erase some things. that just don't need to be there. Okay, that's probably about enough. Erased away. Okay, back to my working layer. And back to my brush. This might all be too warm, these shadows, for how cool the environment is over here, but hands tend to be fairly warm. So I'm just running with it this way for right now. And we'll see. Might be too much, but yeah, let's cool it off and gray it down. Okay. I do kind of like this for like getting right in between some of these spaces. That seems pretty good for that. You gotta be careful with hands if you want them to read as like even remotely believable. That you don't just draw like lines. Like really everything, like we've talked about, you can't just have lines. You have to have, you know, built up value shifts. Otherwise things just look sort of stamped in place, you know. The sword is blocking us there, so I'm just gonna allow it to do that and just work it in that way. It's all gonna get merged together eventually anyway, so I don't really care. I do want to go redder and just sort of searching for this, what feels like the right shadow color for this in this environment without losing the tone of his flesh in the fingers, which are always quite warm. Okay, let's work his nail in here. I think I'm gonna go somewhere like this to start. No, we need to be pinker. Let's try this. kind of getting too light on me. Also, with the stuff that he's been up to, his nail would probably be pretty jacked. But I don't know if I'm gonna go that far with it. I'm gonna change my brush to this, back to this MA brush number 1-2. This brush is a really nice painterly brush that allows for nice subtle moves. Like it takes time to build things up with it, so it gives you a chance to feel the values building, and I like that. Okay, so these are turned away to some degree. I'm going to maintain light along this edge, I think. And just work some creases, showing some changes in that edge of that line there. These initial hints of knuckle detail are feeling really archaic now. So let's make them go away. Let's get this shadow color back and kind of think just about up to here. Let's make sure that the shape of the gloves actually tells the story of how round the finger is by changing that shape. Okay, I'm gonna go much darker, get in here, refine this shape here, and begin to refine the shapes in between the fingers on the actual gloves themselves. And this color is dark enough that I think it kind of works for both in the finger, between the fingers, and on the actual fingerless glove itself. Okay, this is the gauntlet leather vambrace / whatever. So let's get that going. Now I want to show that reflected light. Also, you see how hard this edge is? Old factory, edges. Want that gone. I don't want those kinds of edges in the piece at the end of by the time it's done. But as I said before, the reason why I tend to do that is because it helps me to feel like I'm just getting my design, or getting everything blocked in nice and solid when I work with solid brushes. And I can always add refinement later. Okay, let's work some ambient light into the back side of this. And it's made of leather, so it's going to be fairly reflective. 51. Okay, well, let's also work that ambient light into his finger. And probably need to go cooler, or I mean a little darker along the edge of this, like so. Refining hands can be, especially if you're not actually looking at a reference, can be a bit of a time-consuming thing, because they're just complex forms and they're difficult, and unless you're the kind of artist who goes out of their way to study, like do studies of hands like constantly, and just like has like a gonna make a point to paint them a lot kind of a attitude, you're probably going to be challenged by them for the entirety of your artistic life, which is fine. I don't mind being challenged by things. If it gets to the degree that if I feel like I can't figure a hand out that I've been working on at a certain point, I will either ask somebody to model for me and take a picture, or I'll model myself if I can get my hand, if I can actually make my hand be in that position, kind of a thing, But I tend to try and just go with out of my memory of, from practice and just out of my head, if I can. At least I start there and I just see if I can get somewhere, before I give up. Unless I'm doing client work. If I'm doing client work, I just go straight to references, because client work is not the difference between client work and personal work is that when you're working for a client, you're just trying to get to a professional result, like as quickly as you possibly can, because they're not paying you to noodle and figure out things and grow as an artist. They're paying you for where to get a professional product to them, like as quickly as possible. So anyway, I kind of want to show like this part of the hand, this comes up here. Let's show the thickness of this finger. I think we would see some thickness of this finger right here. So let's show some of that. We got a decent amount of it on this one. Let's just make sure we continue it. This finger feels a little fat to me, but maybe we just need more of the side of it as well. That would help to thin it down, and it's right in here, to be totally fair. Right in here. I think most of what I'm seeing is actually not on the original layer. It's actually on the layer I have now. So thin that down, then I can finish refining that there and with the Master Sword. 56. Let's just zoom out and start and look at where we're getting with... I kind of wanted to do some things to the hair today. I feel like there's a little bit of like an overall shape, like style of Link's hair that I haven't quite landed on yet, and I haven't really looked at a reference of his head so much. I've been trying, like I said in one of the other episodes, I've been trying to like fully imagine him out of my own head as much as I possibly can for this, but when I was looking for references of the shield, I did see some images of his hair, and I was like, I don't think I'm quite there. I'm two McDonald's arches, I've got like, it looks like I can't unsee like the McDonald's golden arches. Like it needs more angle to it, and yeah. Anyways, so that's something I'll probably do in the next episode since we're running out of time. But let's just kind of look at the before and after of this rim light / other stuff we needed to get done layer here, the utility layer or last looks layer, whatever you want to call it. So that's off, on, off, on. So one thing I can say for sure is that down here in the boot, the rim light and the Nia or whatever, the rim light has gotten completely out of control. Ooh, I'm not on the eraser that I want. The rim light has gotten completely out of control. So I'm gonna, like I said before, I like to push harder and then ease back, right? I feel like that gives me the level of control that I want. So I'm gonna do that now with this rim light over here. Also, this up here absolutely needs to be pushed back on his hood. I kind of like the strength of it right there along the shoulder. That feels pretty good. So I'm going to leave that. We're definitely getting somewhere with the hand. The flesh tone is very, very warm though. Too warm. We need some of this lighter stuff in where the light's hitting. So we're going to work on that next time. This time we're really out of time. But lastly, before we go, I'm going to look at the fairy magic and fairy dust. So I'll start with the fairy dust. I'm going to duplicate it. Now this is pretty subtle. Look, you're looking at the little glittery stuff as I duplicate that. Yeah, that definitely makes it better. And then the fairy magic, if I duplicate that, that's a little strong. But I think I'm gonna go for about like yay. And yeah, that's a little bit better. Makes it, I just wanted to push it a little harder into the scene. So now we really are at an hour, so I am going to wrap this one up. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you're enjoying the series. If you did enjoy this one, don't forget to give it a like, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications of future videos, and I will see you guys in the next one. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, share it with your friends, ring the bell for notifications of future videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one.